Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Rugby Scoop podcast. It's Sunday. It's the Sunday Scoop. Not by myself. I'm joined by the lovely crew. Jade will join us a bit later on. I believe he's got some little ones to take care of a bit. Also joined by Hugh Griffin, the stats man, all the way in the UK. Vuyo Zanga, all the way in Russia. He's currently busy with some rugby stuff this weekend. Sevens orientated. Oh, there's Jade. And apparently there's thunderstorms in Bloemfontein, so we're not going to talk about the weather. Vickers, how are things going with the tournament so far? How's your weekend?
Yeah, bro, all good. Frustrating, but you know what? It's part of what we do. Finished fifth, but we're still third or locked, so with one more tournament to go next week. So yeah, everything is good, no complaints.
All right, and I'll keep pushing. Challenges are there for a reason. We learn from them. Griffin, stats man, your weekend so far, and obviously no hate for the English.
Can you hear me okay, mate?
Yeah, I can.
If England have no haters, I am dead.
Anyway, how's the garden looking? How are things over there on your side?
No more gardening this year, mate. The weather has turned in England and it's not safe to go outside.
Yeah, it gets dark quite early now in Europe.
Oh,
Jade?
So early.
Yeah, Jade, have you survived the storm? And kids all over the place?
Yeah, no. Survived it. Like the Allblacks survived George Ford's drop goal yesterday. Survived it barely.
Well said.
Kids' parties are...
What?
Kids' parties are like an excuse for parents to just drink.
He's probably holding Avanti as we speak, Jade.
It's Sunday, Jim. Sunday.
Yeah, fair. All right, no, fair enough, gentlemen. This show is brought to you by Avanti Brandy. You can buy or purchase any Avanti Brandy online, www.avantibrandy.com. You can use the code SCOOPAVANTE to purchase and get a free delivery. So basically, gentlemen, now today we're going to touch on a couple of news break-making headlines, and then from there we tap into the internationals. Obviously, we're going to look into that England versus the All Blacks game and probably touch on the results that took place between Munster and All Blacks 15, and also what took place between Fiji and Scotland. But not wasting any time. We've got, news break-making headlines or covering all our socials today is Joe Marler leaving England camp at the beginning of last week. And today, he's retired. Hugh, your thoughts on this particular one?
I'm going to just tell you the timeline and then people can make up their own minds. Joe Marler is recalled into the England camp. He tweets about the hacker. He leaves England camp. He deactivates his social media. He reactivates his social media. He tweets about the hacker some more. Then he is pitch side. He's got pitch side access at Twickenham. He's shaking hands, meeting Razor Robertson. And then the next day, it's announced he's retired, and England have got videos ready to go of his retirement speech. So you guys can make up your own mind as to what's happened here.
Ooh, tricky. Round 3, we understand he has departed Munster after a bad run of results in the URC this season. He won URC not so long ago. I think it's, that one is quite tricky. Jake White says Hanekom is like a Quagga Smith. Vickers, do you agree? Cameron Hanekom.
No ways, bro. No ways. No one is like that. Look, I think the one thing that I would probably think that Jake was talking about is the versatility, the versatile of the player. So he can move obviously to 8, to flanker. Yeah. You can cover a couple, and if you push on the shot, you probably even throw him in on the wing. So I don't think, honestly, he's compared to Kwaha, but he'll definitely cover a lot more positions than for example, Evan Ross.
Okay, no, fair enough. Jade, I think you might put your glass down for this one. There's a booze ban in France, so there's no more post-match drinks with opposition. Yeah, I don't know what the reasons behind this. I didn't actually read that particular article regarding that one. And also, Romain Tamak will miss out on the autumn series, unfortunately. Are we ever going to see this guy play, Jade? Since the injury in the warm-up games for the World Cup, we've hardly seen, or we actually hardly seen his name come up. And unless he's injured, that's the only time we've seen his name come up in the past year.
Yeah, it's actually sad, I hope he doesn't get, what can I say, an injury-plagued career. But he's still young. He's still very young. I think what's he now, 24, 25, so he's still got another 2 World Cups in him. But I hope he can shake off his injuries. We've all seen him for Toulouse. We've seen he's been world-class, so it's time for us to see France as well. Last season there was a big hype about him before going to the World Cup, being the best 10 in the world, but he didn't make it to the World Cup. So I hope we can get his injuries, behind him and we can see him on the international stage, He's at least a Southern Hemisphere, because we see a lot of him in the Six Nations, but at least against Southern Hemisphere teams,
Yeah. No, agreed. Vickers, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we spoke about the Stormers. Maybe needing some reinforcements in terms of people, in terms of personnel. They need in their squad people like good ball carriers, especially within the forward pack. Having lost the likes of Daimani and then Evan Ross being injured, etc. But today the news has come out that Duan van der Merwe could be linked to the Stormers. I mean, having Duan, does that cover the actual conversation that we had last week regarding ball carries for a Stormers to solve the Stormers' problems?
Yeah, I think it would be the worst move ever because it definitely doesn't even come close to what we're discussing because it's literally you're getting a winger where we're talking about forwards. But the Stormers, basically what we discovered is that the Stormers' game plan is sort of like working a kick counter, expressing themselves on a kick counter. So with Duan, the question would be, is he going to be one of those players that will obviously excite on the kick counter? And in my opinion, I don't think so. Yes, he'll dash it up, maybe break the line 1 or 2 there, but I don't see him basically doing what a Damien Willemse would do at 15 or what a Gelant would do. So for me, I wouldn't go that route, especially the fact that he's not going to come cheap. I would definitely keep on with the wingers they have. I think Leon Zas has been absolutely great. He's been solid for the Stormers. I like Angela Davis on the right-hand side, and obviously Sinatla is also coming back soon. And they still got Kutzenberg and remember the English winger, also him. So interesting questions, but I definitely wouldn't bring him into the system.
Yeah,
I can't see this one happening. I'll be shocked if Duan van der Merwe goes to the Stormers. I'll be absolute shocked.
Your favourite South African team, you Stormers?
Yeah, no, exactly as Vuyu says, he doesn't solve anything for them, and why would he go there? I don't understand it. Fair enough.
Jay, do you want to jump in there as well?
Yeah, no, man. I wanted to add to that. I mean, as per Fabrizio's coming fly off Romano, there's talked about Kobus Reinach, joining them as well. So there's big talks about that. So it could be that, Stormers are looking at the market and trying to get a few more key players in. But yeah, we don't want to get, how do they say, square pegs in the round holes. So that's what they need to be careful of.
Yeah, but they're looking at the backline players. They're not getting reinforcements in the forwards. So how do they fix that forward pack? Because, I mean, Kitshoff is, probably not going to play for another 12 months, right? Daimani is gone. Evan Roos is gone. And we mentioned a few players that are supposed to be ball carriers last week or 2 weeks back. Your Van der Merwes, your Dixons, but they're not living up to that hype. Jade. So
Yeah, I think they're shopping like us over December time and first buying luxuries before the necessities. So maybe they're doing that at the moment, but it's true what you're saying.
Black Friday is around the corner. So maybe Dobo should get that credit card out.
Yeah, luxury, that's the word that Jade used. Luxury is exactly the right word.
So Black Friday doesn't work for luxury. Because you want to just chime in there before we jump into the other headlines?
Look, I mean, if you're willing to spend money, I was just thinking, if you're willing to spend money, there's Malcolm Marx sitting in Japan. You've got Damon Dalinde sitting in Japan. Get those guys in. I mean, you can even go find an 8. I still believe Pepsi Buthelezi will be a great inclusion into that Stormers setup because obviously he's a ball carrier. And then maybe find another 7, another strong 7 somewhere, or who can actually dominate. So I mean, like you say, Scoop, he has to get the credit card and pay, because at the end of the day, you can't pay wingers that kind of money, and then while you don't even have those the forwards to make sure the ball is clean for that wing.
No, fair. Still to come, guys, the All Blacks versus England game analysis from our side. But before we do that, Hugh, an exclusive from Wales. An exclusive. World Rugby. Wales Rugby Union threatening to withdraw the women's team from next year's World Cup. I'm not going to say anymore. Can you enlighten us a bit about this? And then after that, we jump on to the All Blacks against England.
Yeah, so it's a very unpleasant conversation, unfortunately. For those who don't know, the WRU have had a lot of trouble with regards to the women's team. So last year, 2023, there was a big national news in the UK of the WRU institutionalised sexism and misogyny. And there was big reforms made off the back of that. But unfortunately, there still seems to be underlying issues. So the women's national team were in the process of negotiating new contracts. So as you all will know, women's rugby is in the process of turning professional, and a lot of unions are handing out contracts to players now. The pros and cons of doing that we can say for another day, but Wales were in the process of negotiating new contracts, and they ended up handing out 37 new contracts to players. But it's come out lately that the negotiation process for putting those contracts together was very problematic, shall we say, that the players were subject to bullying, they were subject to ultimatums, there was some very shady practices going on by the WRU, which would take too long for me to explain each and every one, but it culminated in Nigel Walker, the performance director for rugby in Wales, telling the women that if they did not sign the contract that was in front of them, then they would be withdrawn from the Rugby World Cup, which is unthinkable, really. It's unbelievable that a high-ranking official in a national union would say something like that. The fact of the matter is, it would never be said to the men. They would never threaten to withdraw the men from the World Cup, so why would they withdraw the women? It's totally unacceptable. I've done a whole podcast about it. And there's a lot to get into, but essentially it's a very, very, very bad time for the Welsh Rugby Union yet again.
Yeah, fair enough. You, if you want to learn more about this particular topic, you can follow at HG Rugby or Hugh Griffin Rugby on Twitter, and also you can check out his pod on YouTube as well to follow up on this particular story. Jade, the All Blacks. Too much conversations during the week, too much talk during the week around the haka debate, right? We'll touch on the haka a little bit, but most importantly, the All Blacks won over the weekend. Your thoughts, and obviously the build-up to this week or to the game itself. And give us your thoughts, and then we'll try and dissect it between you and Vickers and yourself.
No, look, I mean, the build-up and all the talk about the haka, I mean, just shows and the support that everybody has against England, you know. I mean, we just had it in South Africa a few months ago, where at Ellis Park where they had that mishap. And then in Cape Town, I went and watched the game. And for the first time, I watched the All Black game against South Africa, in South Africa. And it was quiet during the haka. Everybody respected it. Now, whether you're a fan of it, whether you think it's showboating, whether you think it's, it's a spectacle, or whether you think it's unnecessary, at the end of the day, it's just to respect it. Because if you understand what the haka is and what it means to the Polynesian and the Maori people, you will get understanding back, around it. So, as part of all rugby, everybody loves the haka. So, besides the bombies, but yeah, the build-up and everything towards it. Some of unnecessary. Joe Marler, we spoke about him. I think there was a few paid content as well. Few people came and said left, right, and center, like the Stephen Joneses and all of them. But for me, it was a showpiece at the end of the day. We had TJ Perenara that didn't play, but we had Cody Taylor leading the Cup of Bongo for the first time, and I think he did it well. And it was a showpiece, and I think everybody enjoyed it. It was intense, and the game lived up to it. The most important thing of this, the game lived up to it. It was a very, very good game. All Blacks clinging on at the end after throwing it away. I felt we threw it away. I felt in the first half, they left 14 points out there. Look at that Tupo by knock on. It was a T team at that break. For once a season under Razor, the backs or the bench came and made a difference. You had Patrick Tuopolotu, Ofatuago Pasi, Tossi, and McKenzie, made massive difference coming on from the bench. That was the first time. I don't know if I can really say, the first two games against England, at Bowden made a difference. But that was one player. But the bench actually got it right for the All Blacks, They came on at the right time, they changed the game, and England just looked like, they might score again to make it a 3-point score. The All Blacks, hung in there. The bench came on and they took the momentum away from England. And at the end of the day, they won the game. A lot can be said about, certain decisions that were made on the field. Well, at times, Cortes Ratama, wasn't at his best. Everybody mentioned once Cam Roybal came on, the game was slower. He was slower at the breakdown. Maybe that was a tactic because once the game was slower at the breakdown, New Zealand actually got goal for ball. You saw hard carries of Patrick Tuopolotu and those guys, started getting forward, getting a lot of goal forward balls. So maybe sometimes in a situation like that, sometimes a 9 being a little bit slower, maybe just be to your advantage. You need to speed up the game the whole time, But yeah, I think for England, taking off Marcus Smith, proved critical at the end. But that was their plan, was George Ford to go out and kill and seal out the game, at the end of the game. So yeah, overall, I'll take the result. I won't take the performance of Rays. I'll take the result because I still believe that New Zealand should be at least 12 points better than this English team. But I'll take the result. They show character at the end. There's a few guys like also for Moore, for example, came on Cody Taylor early in the game. There's been a lot of chit-chat about it. He hasn't been showing his form that he displayed at the Hurricanes or his true potential, but I think he had a good game. I think he had a good game replacing Cody Taylor, who's been actually brilliant for them. So, Wallace Titi, once again, what more can we say about this kid? Mark Delia, I'm not his biggest fan, but I think he scored 2 individual tries more or less, and the last one was a try that only Mark Delia basically does, the way he does that. So I think, at the end of the day, the All Blacks, there were 2 big performances, were a few guys, that, weren't up to the best. I think to go by, I really thought that, with all the physicality and the improvement he showed against the box, I think he was a little bit quiet, lacking physicality at times, and then obviously Cortes Ratama, I think Audie was a little bit quiet yesterday, but a quiet one is still, as good as a lot of loose holds around the world. So, yeah, there's a lot for Raja to work on and think about this weekend, but I think, like I said, he'll take the result, but I don't think he'll be too happy with the overall performance.
Yeah, fair enough. Vickers, Jade talks about this All Black team being 12 points ahead of England in terms of what the scoreline should have been. Looking at the selections from both teams, England and the All Blacks, looking at the physical element of that particular game and the tactics used by 2 coaches, looking at the All Blacks with the offload and Razor also complementing post-match the offload game, that he backs his players to actually use the offload. England, on the other hand, more of a conservative approach, going for 3-pointers when the points are on offer. I mean, the only try they scored came from what? An intercept, while the All Blacks were attacking inside their own inside the English 22. But I mean, overall picture from your side is regarding these particular points. All Blacks being 12-point ahead of this English side, the selection, the game tactics used by both coaches for this weekend's game.
Yeah, I think, look, just to touch on what Jay talked about, Mark Talia was not, it wasn't individual tries. Like, he wasn't selfish. It was just solo tries. He was brilliant. And Jade, yes, he is the number 114 at the moment. I'm sure Jade is not going to like that. But you know what, Scoop? Look, I agree with Jade 100%. They were 12 points ahead on that game. I think, like, in terms of, they did leave a few tries out there. I think once they started finding ways to get around that blitz defense, I think they started to feel comfortable. I would like to see New Zealand not run the ball that deep, because I find that their exits are still so poor just because they start to try and get out with the running technique. And I mean, if you have a blitz defense against you, you're always going to be in trouble in your own half. So I would like to see them put a little bit more territory into their kicking and obviously kicking the right way. I felt a few times Bowden went for kicks instead of just kicking the ball down, what you say, kick long, and then let them return it. I thought that was not good enough from New Zealand side. Obviously, the tactics were, you could see that New Zealand went out there with those small grabbers, trying to get in behind that blitz defense. And they were obviously sitting back deep into their 22 to try and stop England from getting those 50-22s. But then England started doing the chip kicks a little bit or up and unders a little bit closer to the line, and obviously New Zealand were caught a couple of times not in the right positions. So yeah, I think for me, when I look at the game, I think for New Zealand, I'll be more happier. If I was a New Zealander, is a New Zealand coach, I'll be more happier because we survived. If I can call it like that, we survived in difficult circumstances. I mean, 7 penalties in the first half. That was tough, and obviously having to turn that around and still going into the halftime in a lead. Yeah. England didn't even look like they would score. Actually, they didn't look like they would score at all, which is why that intercept try. They went in with the only try they got is the intercept try. Otherwise, all of the others were just penalties. Yeah, so they're using the similar structure that they went into the World Cup with. I know that structure wins test matches. I 100% know the structure wins test matches. But the question is, does it win championships? That's the question we need to ask ourselves, because if you can't score tries, that means that you're always going to be banking on those penalties and free kicks. And once you get a disciplined team, then you're going to be in trouble. So yeah, for me, it doesn't make sense that they're still continuing while they have what we call this like your next cycle. They have the next cycle to start, and they're continuing with what they did in 2023. I'm not so sure if it's going to be the way to win the 2027 World Cup. Other than that, yeah, the biggest mistake was taking out Marcus Smith, and I think the backs of England backs had a solid game. I wouldn't take that away from them. Murray Toja was excellent yesterday. I still felt Angus Gardner could have controlled the game a little bit more at breakdown, but I mean that's a conversation for the day. Yeah, other than that, New Zealand did well to win the game. They deserved it.
Yeah, last week you said England will win it, but nonetheless. Hugh, Bothwick, what are these tactics that viewers talking about that they haven't moved on from last year's World Cup semi-final tactic? They're still implementing the same tactic in 2024, and they what now? They're 0-3 against the All Blacks in one season. Talk to me.
Scoop, I'm tired. I'm tired of being gaslighted by the English media about what's going on with their team at the moment. Like you say, 3 games in a row against the All Blacks. Okay, it's difficult. That's a hard 3 games. No wins. As Vuyo rightly said, only time they scored a try was an intercept. They're still going for the drop goal. They attempted 3 drop goals in this game. It was their primary attacking tactic was to go for the drop goal. That's what they were trying to do. This isn't a World Cup knockout game. This is a friendly. Let's be honest, this is a friendly match. Vuyo is right. They're still going for this World Cup tactic. They had 85 carries in the game for 69 rucks, and only 28% of their rucks were under 3 seconds. That's 19 rucks in the whole game, under 3 seconds. They're still the slowest team. They attempted 5 offloads, got 4. They're still the least offloading team, and they still kicked the leather off it. This is the amount of effort that the English media went to try and convince us that England are now playing an attacking brand of rugby, that Borthwick had changed how England were playing. They were now an exciting team. They're not. That's a lie. They are still the slowest team out there. They are still the most conservative team out there. Ollie Lawrence, their number 12. 2 carries in the game. 2 carries for a number 12. Like, the defenders, the tackles missed for the All Blacks. The All Blacks missed 14 tackles in the whole game, which isn't that many. But if you look at who missed it, Bodie missed 3, a couple of other players, I think, Almua and someone else, Caleb Clark missed 2 each, and then everyone else was ones. There's no steppers, there's no evasion, there's no agility in this England attack. There's nothing. And they're playing percentages rugby, but at this time, as you rightly said, in the cycle, they're not trying to evolve. And what annoys me is the press, the journalists, and the players themselves have come out and told us they are evolving. I've read long pieces of other stats people who have said, this team is evolving, look how much more attacking they are. It's not happening. It's not true. With regards to the All Blacks, 3 tests in a row, this is not 2015 All Blacks, guys. We know this. This isn't even 2019 All Blacks. This is a dip for the All Blacks in terms of how good they are. They're still, shall we say, 3rd, 4th best team in the world, so they're still not a bad team, but this isn't peak All Blacks. When did England become brave losers at home? That's my question. When did England become losing at Twickenham against teams that are not at their best and say, oh, the boys were a heroic effort? When did that happen? Apparently it's acceptable for England to lose at home to teams that are playing 7 out of 10. The All Blacks, the only thing I'd say on them is it reminded me of the Argentina game that they lost for times in that game because they were running from deep all the time. I think they had 38% of their possession between the halfway and their own 22 in their own half. So nearly, if you include in their own 22, over 40% possession. And again, well over 200 passes, getting on for 2 passes per run. This is overplaying all the time for New Zealand. And they got away with it this week. That's how I view it. They got away with it. I still don't think that in the hard games, this is going to be the solution for them. They still need to play the percentages more. They don't kick off 9 at all. I think Ratimer kicked 5 times as a 9. Bodie kicked 16 times. They need to add that to their game. For me, they're throwing the ball around too much with not enough direction, not enough game control. And I would hope that gets into them because they've got some young halfbacks, number 9s, I mean, and they need to box kick more. They need to play smarter rugby. They need to play territory better because they're playing Ireland next, and that's not going to work against Ireland. I can tell you that much.
Ooh, Jade, trembling in Bloemfontein Storm, huh? But Jade, listening to the gents right now, right? We're talking about England first, right? I just read an extract from I think it's Danny Kerr regarding how Eddie Jones treated players during his era. And obviously they were winning in that period. But then now looking at Borthwick, right? He's stolen a few templates from what the Springboks have been doing. He's stolen a few coaching staff members from the Springboks and brought them into the English setup. We can see that has been translated to the on-field, not the performance, but obviously the on-field tactics that the English are employing. But Jade, it's not coming off at this point. It's not working as well as it should be. I mean, everyone was excited when England beat Ireland. They were the only team to beat Ireland in the Six Nations, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, that covered all the headlines, all the news outlets in England, right? But looking at Bothwick and this English side, would you be happy with the kind of result that we saw on Saturday? But then also, what do you think can help this English side going forward in terms of attack? Because they're playing playoff rugby, semi-final, quarterfinals, finals rugby. But like Hugh said, it's friendlies. We need to see more from what you guys have developed over the past, at least 18 months has been in charge of this team, and we're not seeing that. Talk to me, Jade.
Yeah, the big thing I picked up from yesterday, I think England only had 6 entries into the All Blacks 22. And I think in the second half, there was one where they tried to maul and, Scott Barrett kept the ball up. The other one, that was a lost liner. Then it was a knock-on, and the one they scored from. So it's scary, in terms of all the possession and everything that they did have. I mean, they only made 6 entries. And if you look at the way they scored their points yesterday, they had 1 try from an intercept, and they had 4 kicks at goal, which came from foul play. So thrice the New Zealand tackled England off the ball. And there was one where, I think it was Caleb Clark, he deliberate knockdown. And then obviously they had a chance to win it at the end, also from a tackle and a foul play. So does this mean, they're creating enough, or they're putting teams under pressure? You can question New Zealand's defense, and we all know New Zealand's defense might have been just too passive, and that's why they were eating, the dummy run, or sometimes, the guy off the ball. And with all of that panic that they did cause to New Zealand, causing them to give away those tackles of the ball, they didn't actually really have line breaks. I can't think of a few line breaks in that game where England really, broke the line. Even when you did see Marcus Smith, coming on the outside and trying to step and creating space, there wasn't really line breaks. The line breaks were the opportunities they got from cross kicks, up and unders, There was one where Toji broke through and, they put the chip through, kick through, it didn't work out. So that's where it came yesterday. And that just showed they're not being creative enough. I think also yesterday, with not having Alex Mitchell there, didn't help them much, because I think the 9 was very slow yesterday, but he was more controlled and conservative. But if you look at the back 3, they should be creating more. Favour Boboso, Freeman, Furbank, those guys can play. And they want to razzle dazzle. They're good rugby players, but they're not getting space. So that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to look at this and say, yeah, we came close to beating New Zealand. But what did we do to put them under pressure? And the other thing also is, if you're looking at the way England defended, they only conceded, I think, 4 penalties in this game. I think the first penalty was for sides, or 4 or 5 penalties. And there was 2 or 3 from scrum time as well. So also shows that the discipline's up there, whether you can state that, Gardner gave too much leeway at the breakdown, etc. But the discipline was up there. But they still didn't put, with all of this, keeping a good discipline, having chances, they still didn't put New Zealand under pressure. There wasn't one moment in that game where you saw this bother at the intercept. I think England can score here. They're really, really, really testing New Zealand's defense. They're really, really, really testing New Zealand's resilience. But if you look at it and you see that New Zealand was so undisciplined, they actually allowed England back into this game with all of these off-the-ball tackles, this foul play, knock-ons, deliberate knock-ons. So, yeah, for both Vicky, if I was him, I would look at bringing, I don't know if you will, but looking at bringing somebody like a Mike Cat, or somebody that can structure attack, getting somebody like that in. I don't think you will, but look at, getting somebody in there. The same as Africa did with getting Tony Brown, but look at getting somebody that can structure the attack, because they've got the tools in their backline, but they're just not playing the game. They're getting in those situations, where they can make a difference.
Yeah, fair enough. Vickers, I want to challenge you on this one, right? During this past week, I decided to watch the the first test, England versus New Zealand, and the second test, England versus New Zealand. And obviously, there were a few things I picked up from those particular games. I heard what Hugh said earlier about New Zealand playing too much in their own half. But looking at the threat, like Jade said, that England, the English back three can ball, right? Tommy Freeman at 11, Emmanuel Feu-Waboso, George Furbank at 15. They actually put New Zealand under pressure numerous times in those two tests in New Zealand, because New Zealand kicked far and they kicked too far. Obviously, going back to the point about playing percentage footy, right? And maybe the tactic from the All Black side was don't give that back three the ball. Don't give them an inch of the ball by kicking possession away. So we would rather play 12-man rugby, hit the ruck, 9 picks up, first to 10, next player takes it in, hit the ruck, and so on and so forth, preventing the threat of 15, 14, and 11 from the English side counter-attacking against them. What do you think Razor and his coaching staff thought about what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think, look, even if they would have gone into that tactic, but at the end of the day, then make sure that your defense coaches are aware that this is what we're going to do. We're going to kick long, and then I need my players on their feet. I need a defense structure where we can obviously we can at least protect our half in terms of defense. But then again, you look at what Hugh spoke about. Hugh spoke about how many kicks with Retima. I think he had Hugh said 5 and Retima at 16. Bowden at 16. Then stop kicking off your 10. Then start using your 9 to put up bombs so that we contest it, so that we're hitting contestables. So there are ways of getting around it. And because you're hitting contestables, it takes away that counter-attack effect. Whereas now, if you're going to kick off your 10 a lot of times, you're actually bringing it in. I mean, I would love for New Zealand to kick deep against South Africa with Cheslin at the back and Arends at 11. Probably they'll have a field day, but you see that. So there are ways of getting around it in terms of make sure that your 9s can kick proper bombs so that you can be able to put them under pressure. Otherwise, if you're going to kick long all the time, then you are basically playing into their hands. So I feel like their tactic is not bad to starve the back three off the ball. But then again, use your 9. Use your 9 to hit up contestables. Maybe they don't believe Clark is good enough in the air, and maybe Talia as well. But then let Jordan chase the ball. Because Jordan we know he's good in the air. Let him chase the ball and let Clark sit back so that he covers the backfield. Find a way. I think as coaches, you just have to find a way on how to counter what the opposition is bringing, but also not putting yourself under pressure that you are in the negative.
All right. No, fair enough. Hugh, we understand that Bowden Barrett has failed his HIA for this weekend. Cody might also be missing the game next week, or this week rather. Probably we'll hear more news about some players by Wednesday, roughly. I mean, looking at who the All Blacks will be playing on Friday. Actually, it's not even on a Saturday. It's a Friday game against Ireland. And you've mentioned that the Irish, will probably be a more difficult task for Razor and his counterparts. What do you think would be the right approach for this Irish matchup instead from what we've seen on Saturday against England? But what do you think would be the right approach for a Razor and his counterparts going into the Irish matchup?
I think they've got to play on the counter, which I know, playing counter-attacking rugby might not sit well with some All Blacks fans because they might say we need to be the aggressors, we should be on the front foot. But Ireland haven't lost in Dublin in a November test since 2016, something like that, for a very, very long time. And right now, I do think they are a step clear of the All Blacks. So All Blacks are the best. All Blacks are at their best on transition. They could have scored a couple of extra tries against England because their transition, Satiti's transition is unbelievable. So they need to play to that. And I think kick long, don't overplay. They need to be happy to be without the ball against Ireland, because Ireland are going to be possession heavy and they need to back their defence. New Zealand's defence has been okay. It's not something that's been spoken about, but they're not letting in many tries. So I would say play without the ball, go for transitions, counter-attack, and take your chances. Almost what they did in the test against the Springboks, where they scored 4 tries but still managed to lose. That kind of game plan, I think, is the best approach for playing the Irish right now.
Jade, Wallace, Satiti. Enough said. Talk to me.
Enough said, bro. Enough said. How good is this kid? How calm is this kid under pressure? Honestly, I was one of them that in the squad got announced that as his first squad. I was surprised he got selected. I'm a little bit upset that, Hoskins didn't get the nod ahead of him. But, man, what a rugby player. This guy's good. He's the real deal. I think he's only going to get better. There's a few things on defense, that he can improve. But so he will as he goes on. I think if he continues this way, people see him as being, likening to Ari Savia or Jerome Kano. But for me, I think this is, he reminds me of Zinzan Luke at this time. He reminds me of Zinzan. And what he does is always seems one step ahead of the game. He carries, he reads the game. He can carry the ball hard. He's got pace. He's got feet. I think he's closer to Zani, than any of those other players. But what a rugby player. Very good at line-out time as well. He's not that tall, but he gets up there. Similar to what Itoji does as well. Itoji gets up there. He's not on the same level. Don't quote me on that and say that. Jay says that Satiti and Itoji are the same line-out option. But what I'm saying is that, his innovation that he gets, from his high jump, vertical jump, it's just impressive. I really think the sky's the limit for this kid. I think that, he will be, once Peter Steve the toy, and those guys step down in a few years' time or so, I think he will be the leading loose forward in world rugby if he continues playing like this and he continues to learn and to stay humble, keep his feet on the ground. Looks like he's got a good head on his shoulder as well. So yeah, what more can we say? I'm excited to see how he goes next week against Doris and Peter O'Malley and Van der Vlier and those guys, because that's a very, very good loose trio. We can arguably say that they might be one of the best loose trios in the world. But let's see how he goes against Ireland next week. But it's exciting. He's very exciting. And from where he came from, it can be a lesson to so many rugby players out there. He comes from a Chiefs development setup. So he wasn't really in the plans at the Chiefs. Look at the players they had at the Chiefs. They got some Penny Finau, they had Luke Jacobson, Kalen Boshier, Alex Rampling, all of those guys. But Wallace Satiti played him in there. He came from North Harbour. Played him in there, took his chance at the Chiefs, got a game against One Pacifica and never looked back since then. So, it shows that, to other rugby players around the world that, take your opportunities. You never know where it might end up. And just look what happened with him, So, I'm impressed with the guy's scoop. Every week, I keep on writing about it. But, let's see how he goes next week against Ireland and let's see how he continues to develop.
Yeah, no, fair. I think he's a wonderful talent, Wallace Satiti. Very strong on his feet. He's got very good footwork. Ball skills, amazing. Those offloads, incredible. And obviously listening to Razor post-match as well, also crediting his players and backing his players to give those offloads. I agree with you earlier with regards to the All Blacks playing too much. Sometimes I also feel like, come on, gents, just get that ball out of your own half, play in the opposition territory. Maybe the issue then is the ability to kick and kick well. And also a kick is also as good as its chasers as well. So if your wingers are not your Cheslin Colbys, your Arons, your KLAs, the guys that are real workhorses, the guys who really chase after kicks all game long. Their legs should be finished by the 80th minute because there's so much running involved in that, right? Having to chase, having to track back, get into position and wait for the other team to kick back at you, playing support for your fullback when he catches the ball, etc. So there's so much yin and yang that takes place. Maybe a Caleb Clark is a wee bit too heavy to be doing that up and down on the field, because then he probably doesn't last 80 minutes, right? If we're looking on the technical or tactical things involved within the kick chase element. And then we look at the aerial skills element as well. If that ball is given enough hang time, is he in the right place to catch the ball, or is the kick also good enough to be chased well as well? Because there's so many things in those dynamics that are involved regarding the kick chase element. But yeah, Vickers, looking towards... Oh, okay, Jade, you want to jump in there quickly?
Well, quick on that. I mean, we're speaking about it. We spoke about it this year New Zealand, and Yusuf spoke about it now, the box kicking from night. I think it's the first time that, you had a scrum off, or in the 3 of them, all are left-footed. So maybe, the shape and stuff for that exit play, maybe this also plays a consideration, in terms of they're all being left-footed compared to what they had with, Christie and Aaron Smith in the past with being right-footed. So maybe that also we need to take into consideration. I just thought of it now when we're speaking about it, but PJ, Ratama, and Roy are all left-footed.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. That could be the influence. But yeah, I mean, looking forward now into next week, Vickers, we've got Ireland, New Zealand. Your thoughts, this particular one, and prediction?
Yeah, I did it back New Zealand this last weekend, and I almost came right, but the 40 dropped goal just messed it up. But anyway, I think, look, I definitely go New Zealand. Not to win this one again, unfortunately. I think Ireland will be just a little bit stronger, a little bit more controlled. In terms of the scoreline, I think it will be definitely 1-pointer, 2-pointer.
Yeah, but I mean, Vickers, looking at what transpired in the quarterfinal last year, and obviously all the talk now with Johnny Sexton's book and Rico Ioane, there's rivalry there. There's Sam Kane. There's Peter O'Mahony. I mean, a lot is at stake. Both teams would be fired up. You still think Ireland will be the ones that take it through?
Revenge game. That's all I'm saying. Revenge game.
Hugh, your thoughts on this particular one?
The All Black team that played Ireland in the quarterfinal is not the current All Black team that we are seeing. I think Ireland will win comfortably.
Whoa, Jade. Wouldn't take that lying down. Comfortably. Your thoughts, Jade?
Nah, you know what? I think with Cody Taylor and Bowden being out this week, I think it's 2 massive losses. And I think the 6-day turnaround, with Ireland, resting, although a lot of people saying Ireland didn't have a heat out before playing New Zealand, might be rusty, but that's basically the Leinster team with 2 add-ons. So I think Ireland will win this game, I think by 8 points or so. I think Ireland left too much for New Zealand in Dublin.
All right. After that, Vickers, we've got England, Australia. Dave Rennie, Bothwick. Not Rennie, sorry. Joe Schmidt, Bothwick.
England comfortably. Definitely England comfortably, because I think Australia is still in a transition phase. I think they're still trying to obviously figure out what structure and the players they have. How you can use them positively. I think so. I'm definitely gonna go England. Unfortunately, it's not what I like, but I'm gonna have to go England on this one. And then obviously, yeah, I think England comfortably.
Yeah, but they've got the likes of your Skeltons back now, a few overseas players involved or included in their squad. You still think it will be comfortable for England?
Yes, 100%. I think, Scoop, the one thing that you can't fix as a coach is it's game time. You have to have game time. You have to make sure that your players are playing together. And I think after this weekend's loss with England, having obviously now footage to be able to review and obviously put your plans together for the weekend, I think they will have a better chance to Australia, because if you remember, Skelton and those guys haven't played for Joe Schmidt, and they will have to still learn how to get into Joe Schmidt's game plan and structure.
Yeah. No, fair. So cohesion and understanding what the game plan is will probably be one of the tricky parts in this tour. Understanding Australia are on a Grand Slam tour, so they're playing 5 games. So they're playing all the UK sides and Ireland, and then I think the last one is Italy, if I'm not mistaken, or France, one of the two. But nonetheless, Hugh, England, Australia.
In Afrikaans, Scoop, in Afrikaans, they call it mur. If you took 5 Grand Slams.
Chisambama, that's what it is. Griff?
Yeah, England comfortably. They need to be willing to attack Australia, though. There's no point winning the game 19 points to 16 or something. They need to be willing to go for a few moves and really get the backs into play on this one.
Didn't expect that answer from you, Hugh. Jade.
I call it as I see it, mate. I call it as I see it.
Jade, England and Australia.
I think England will have one eye on the Buck game, and after a tough New Zealand game, and I think that we go to their pants down, and Australia will beat them.
Oh, nice, fair. And then I think Argentina and Italy. Just give me the name of the country for this one that you think will win. Argentina, Italy, Vickers.
Yeah, Argentina. Yeah, away. Maybe Argentina. With Argentina, you guys all know it's never simple with Argentina. But maybe, yeah, Argentina on this one. Yep.
They've beaten the Springboks. I mean, they've been quite consistent, quote unquote.
Yeah, but Scoop, with Argentina, the moment it's almost like when they're together, everything is good, but then they go separate ways, then they come back together. Yeah, they need a couple of weeks to just pick up some steam.
Hugh Griffin.
So last year I picked Italy to have a good Six Nations because Benetton were going really well, and I was right. Benetton are going really disappointingly in the URC at the moment. The squad that they've got, you could argue the Benetton squad is better than Italy's squad, but they've been really underperforming. And now I don't think they're going to be able to step up to Argentina. I think Argentina are in a good place. It might not be the best performance, but I don't think Italy are going to hit the ground running. I think it's going to be a very sluggish start to the autumn for Italy.
Okay, fair enough. Jade?
No, I think Argentina. It's not going to be a pretty game to watch. I think it'll be scrappy. But I think Argentina will have too much for them.
Okay, we've got 3 more games to go, gents. 3 more games. Bear with us. Vickers, France, Japan. In Paris.
Yeah, France.
Hugh?
Easy. We know. Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones' horses are not lasting the 100-meter mark.
Ah, right. They are 20-meter team. So they only run for 20 meters or 20 minutes.
20-minute wonders. Yeah.
Hugh?
I think this could be one of the most mistake-filled games that you've seen. I think France are going to pick an experimental team which will have zero cohesion. And I think they'll be behind at points in the first half. I think Japan are going to score some tries. So I'm expecting a high-scoring game, 50 points to 30, that kind of thing. A lot of mistakes. And I'm going France to win it.
Oh, then EJ can target this if they're putting in a quote-unquote second-string team. Jade, France, Japan?
No, I think France will win it.
Okay. Now to Hugh's countrymen, Wales, Fiji. Considering what happened last year in the World Cup.
Yeah, so Fiji had a very disappointing game against Scotland. They'll be very annoyed with how that game went, how it began, how it ended. They'll welcome back their European-based players, not only their centres and their wingers, who are all on fire in Europe at the moment, but also their props as well, which I think will make a big difference. Wales, I've got no idea what team Gatland is going to select, really. I could guess, but it would just be guesses. If they pick the team that they picked in the first 10 against Australia, Wales will lose this match. So it's all on the selection from Gatland. I think, based on the current records of the two teams, even despite what happened against Scotland, I think Fiji are favourites.
Wow. Vickers, Wales, Fiji.
Yeah, I understand Hugh is pretty harsh on his countrymen. Yeah, I'm gonna go opposite. I'm gonna go Wales to win this one.
Fair enough. Jade?
I don't know. It's a close call. I mean, Wales can't be that bad, but I mean, I think Fiji is not that bad as well. I think Fiji's going to beat Wales here. I think so.
Jeez. Millennium, Principality Stadium nowadays. Keep forgetting, but I'm still stuck on 1999 when was it 99 or 98 when they built the stadium? Griff.
90. I want to say our first game there was 97. I want to say, but it wasn't fully built.
Yeah, there was still I think I remember the Springboks during that period were on 18-0, and they needed to go 19-0. And the stadium was kind of halfly built or something like that. And actually Wales pulled off an upset during that period as well. But nonetheless, the headliner. Actually, the headliner is on Friday, but two headliners. Springboks versus Scotland, Vickers.
Box, mate. Standard box.
What?
Scotland. You talk about Scotland. Come on.
Look at what happened in the World Cup. You couldn't score in the first half.
No.
Struggled in the second half.
Don't worry.
If it wasn't for money, if it wasn't for the no-look kick from Manny Libok, we would be talking something totally different right now.
Don't worry about that one. Is South Africa in a transitional phase in a positive way? His name is Tony Brown. Let's go.
Confident. What's the scoreline difference? 2 tries, 12 points.
No, Griff. We back to Bill McLaren days of Percy Montgomery scoring 6 tries.
No ways.
I'm telling you, it's gonna go 40. I'm gonna go 40 points.
40.
I'm gonna go 40 points.
40-point Finn Russell is there. Sione Tuipolotu is there.
Don't you worry about Finney. We'll get him at the bar after.
Classic. You Springboks want to be unbeaten in this tour. Talk to me, Springboks. Scotland.
Well, I think Vuyo's opened a bottle of something. I don't think it'll be 40. I don't think it will be by 40. I think I'm predicting one of those games where Scotland play really well and they play all the nice rugby and they score some nice tries, and then the 80 is finished and they look up at the scoreline and they've lost by 6 points. I think that's what's going to happen.
I think it's going to be a tough one. I don't think it's going to be as easy as Vuyo made. And it's a Sunday game. All of us will be relaxed. All of us will be chilled. All of us will be having a glass of Avanti in our hand. Jade, Springboks, Scotland.
I think Scotland fancy their chances here. I mean, the bulk of the squad has beaten South African teams. I mean, they're not as bad as everybody thought and think they were out to be. I mean, they put a few big scouts this year as well. They were unlucky to lose against France. But I think at the end of the day, the Boks will have a little bit too much for them. You know, I think the Boks by a score, but it will be where the Boks come from behind. That I think the Boks will be a little bit rusty. And then Scotland will take advantage. Will get Darcy Gray and all of those guys, scoring good tries, like you said. They play good rugby, they'll show the fight, but they won't have the physicality to get it over the line. I think the Boks will go back to their strengths and they'll win the game.
Fair. I'll tell you my reasoning behind me thinking that this game would be close, because the fact that we've got the Warriors team, the Glasgow Warriors team, having come to South Africa, having faced the likes of your Blue Bulls at their peak, having faced the Sharks about 2 to 3 weeks ago as well. And as you say, Jade, the bulk of the Scottish team some of them are also within that Glasgow team, beating Stormers away from home, close game against the Sharks 2 weeks ago. I mean, it came down to within a score. They're familiar with those players, right? And the Sharks are stacked with Springbok players. I think they're familiar with the South African players and the Springbok players. So, in terms of the game itself, on the physical front of things, it could be evenly matched, but Springboks probably tipping the physical element. But then we come to the backline element as well. Tuipolotu is in amazing form currently at that number 12 jersey. Dialende has also been in amazing form. So we can see a good clash between 12 and 12. At 10, Finn Russell will play a major role in dictating how that team plays against the Boks, because he's had a good run at Bath currently. They were finalists last season. They on top of the table, or one or second in the Gallagher Premiership. Springboks, on the other hand, I think they will have Pollard starting at 10 in this particular game. So we do understand the type of football will be played at Murrayfield. So there will be a lot of kicking. As Vuyo thinks that since Tony Brown is there, they're going to run a lot. I think they won't be running quite a lot. They'll revert back to restoring factory settings, going back to what they know. And then maybe if the opportunity comes in the second half, then we probably could see a bit of a running game from the box. But I think it's going to be a close game from what I think, based on what I've said regarding this particular match. But nonetheless, that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. And there's going to be plenty to talk about next week. Oh my goodness, too much to talk about. And also, it looks like we'll have to shift one of our chats to only after the Springbok game next week, unfortunately. And looking forward to seeing you guys and talking to you guys next week. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for listening in. This is the Rugby Scoop. Thanks, Vickers. I'm sure you're going to run back to your team now. Thank you, Jade. I know there's a storm and also Kitty's parties. Thank you, Hugh. I know you're behind the laptop looking at all the stats, also sorting out your own podcast as well. But yeah, thank you guys for joining in. And thank you to the listeners. It's been an amazing weekend. See you guys next week, Sunday. The Sunday Scoop.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Cheers,
Thanks.